there, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be completing a king size bed topper. Some of the materials that you'll need for this project are a pair of scissors, a darning needle with a large eye so that you can fit your chenille yarn through it, some locking stitch markers. I prefer to use the locking ones because the project is rather large and it helps keep my markers in place, a measuring tape, and a 9mm hook. I like to use this 9mm hook because it has a long handle on it, and when you're doing large projects, it just makes it easier because I can hold on to it for a long period of time and it doesn't hurt my hand. Additionally, I will be using a cozy chenille yarn that I purchased at Walmart, and let me show you here. This is my cozy chenille yarn. I absolutely love chenille yarn. It is so soft and fluffy. It's comfortable to cover up with, and it was a good price point at Walmart. So you will need 10 skeins to complete this project. Some of the things I'd like to say about chenille yarn is that it can be challenging to work with if you are trying to create something that has a lot of stitches that you have to be able to look at and weave in and out of different loops. But it is a great yarn to use if you are doing a project that requires simple stitching. And a lot of my projects require simple stitching. And so chenille yarn lends itself to that, and it makes a project just absolutely beautiful. The other thing I will say about it is a lot of my projects that I do with the chenille yarn will be projects that do have space in them because I live in South Texas and it is pretty hot here. So when I'm doing my blankets, I will often create patterns that do have some type of, venting in them so that I can enjoy the comfort and the softness of a blanket, but it's not overwhelmingly warm to be under it, even in the summer months when you're indoors and you're just covering up because it's a little chilly under the air conditioning or the fan. So this project will be super simple. It will involve only one kind of interesting stitch that we're going to use when we're doing the turns for our double crochet stitches, and that's so that we remain even along the edges of our project, and we don't have big sticking out bulky loops on the ends of our projects. So that will be the one new stitch that we'll be learning here. If you are not familiar with single crochets, double crochets, back humps, any of those kinds of things, I have done a previous tutorial on basic crochet stitches, and I will link that so that to this video so that you can go and look at that if you need some help with learning how to do those simple stitches and if you need to go at a slower pace. But overall, this project is very simple, and for me it's going to be a rather large project. So when I show you what we're going to be doing, I am actually going to be showing you a smaller sample of what it will look like, and then I will show you pictures of what my actual end product looks like when I'm done. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to make a loop to begin our work. And you can do that any way you choose to. You can do it with your hook, you can do it with your hand, however you choose to do it. I'm only going to be working a sample. I'm not going to work the entire row like my larger project. So we're going to chain out 23 of these. You don't have to do them tightly. I would recommend that you don't do them too tightly because we're going to go back and do our half double crochets in the back humps. So if you chain these really tight, you're going to have a hard time with that. So I would do the chains nice and easy, not too So now that I've done 23, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more. 1, 2, and then I am going to go back and stitch in the back humps so that my project will have one flat, nice looking line at the bottom. Okay, so you can see here, this is the flat side, and I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to be working in these humps. And I will tell you, you have to pay close attention when you're doing these, working in these back humps, because they will be hard to see. So I often will look on this side and then turn it over to make sure that I'm getting into the back hump of this. Okay, so because it has a variety of colors, it's more difficult to see. So you want to make sure that you look at the flat side and then turn it over to make sure you're getting into the humps in the back. So we did those 2 extra chains. We are going to yarn over and we're going to turn over and count those hoops. So here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. And we want to go into that 3rd back hump. Yarn over and pull up a loop, so you have 3 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 3. And that is your first, that's your first half double crochet. And at this point, I'm going to grab a stitch marker and I am going to go ahead and mark that. You put your stitch marker through those top 2 stitches and close it. Okay. It's very important to remember to do this because this is chenille yarn is not going to be easy to see where this end is. And if you don't get this part correct, you're going to be having a piece of material that is either going to be getting bigger or it's going to be getting smaller. So make sure that you put this in that first stitch before you go any further. Okay, yarn over, look for the next hump. If you're not sure, turn it over. I can see here that this is my X, so I'm going to turn it over. There's the hoop. The hoop isn't going to stick way up, so you gotta look for it. Get it through there, pull up a loop, pull through all 3, and that is your second half double crochet. Again, turn it over. You'll see the X is right there, or I'm sorry, not the X, the V is right here. You're going to turn it over, and there is that hump. So you're going to want to go through that hump, yarn over, and go through that hump. And because we didn't do the stitches really tight, it shouldn't be too hard to get through that hump. Okay, so if you're having a hard time getting through the hump, you may want to frog your work. That means undo it and go back and do it a little bit more loosely. Okay, again, you're going to look for that V. Here's that V. I'm going to turn it over and look for that hump, and I'm going to go through that hump. Pull up a loop. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to yarn over. So I'm going to yarn over, go through that hoop, that hump, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Okay, let's just keep going here. Okay, so you can see what it looks like. I just really like this. It reminds me of navy camo. So, and you can see there's a nice flat edge here. So at the 23rd half double crochet, you're going to do a chain, one chain. I like to pull mine tight. Do a second chain. I like to pull it nice and tight. And then you're going to turn your work. And in this first, if you look right here, there is your first V. You're going to go yarn over and go into that first stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all three, and that is your first half double crochet for this row. Get your stitch marker, and I'm strongly encouraging you to make sure that you put your stitch marker into that first stitch so you don't lose where you are in your work. So put your stitch marker in, and then you're going to go back across, and this should be a whole lot easier than going through the humps. I'm just going to go, make sure you look carefully, because again, with this yarn, it's difficult to see. But because we're doing these simple stitches, it should be pretty easy to get into that first stitch. So if you pull a little bit on the work, you can see, like, here's the first space, here's the next space, and you're going to go into this stitch here. You're going to go through those two through that top loop, completely through, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all three, creating your second half double crochet. So again, you're going to go into this next stitch here, yarn over, go through that V, go underneath both of those. You can see there's two of them. You're going to go through two of them. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all three. And that will be your third double crochet. Your third half double crochet. Okay, and you're going to go all the way across. Okay, if you get confused with where you're going into, just make sure that you can pull on this a little bit. You'll see there's a space there, and and right above that is your where you're going to go into the stitches. Okay, and you want to make sure that don't go under these two stitches. You don't want to go under these two stitches. You want to make sure you look for that little gap there, and you want to go into these two stitches here, this V. Okay, so don't get stuck under here. Make sure you turn over your work and that you're looking at this. This is your top side, not this. This is your top side right here, not this. This is your top side. So you're going to go through those two, go through that V, underneath that V. You're going to, make sure you yarn over first. Hello. Go through that V, pull up a loop, pull through all three. All right, again, yarn over, go through that V, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all three. And you're going to do this all the way back to the other end. And you're coming up to the end of your row, and if you look carefully here, you can see I have my stitch marker here. So I'm so happy that I have it there because I'm not sure I would know exactly where to go if I didn't have it. So I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to leave my stitch marker in. I'll take it out in a minute, but I'm going to leave it in to make sure that I get through those two pieces of yarn through that V. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all three, and that is your last half double crochet for this row. So you're going to chain 2, and again, I like to make my chains a little bit tighter. 1 and 2. Okay, then I'm going to turn my work. Okay. And I'm going to go back and do another row, a third row of half double crochets, and I'm going to start in that first V, if you can see right there, that first, sorry for the shadow there, that first V. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go under that V. So yarn over, go under that V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all three. Okay, and as I've said before you move on, make sure that you put that marker in there. So I'm going to undo this marker from here, and I'm going to slide it. I'm going to make sure when I put it in that I put it through those two top loops. Okay, make sure you put it through those two top loops, right? So that you'll know that's where you need to go through. Lock it, and then you can continue on down this row all the way till you get to the other marker. So we're going to do 4 of these half double crochet rows. Okay, so we are at the end of the 4th row, and if you can see here on this samples so far, when you're doing that half double crochet or you're doing the single crochet, you will end up with a nice line here. No humps, no spaces. It looks really good. Same thing here. Looks good, nice flat lines, no spaces. But what happens is when you start to do a double crochet, in order to get the height to start the double crochet, you will end up typically with a space, a gap in between those first 2 stitches, or something that sticks out a little bit farther, and it doesn't look very attractive on a blanket. So I use a method that I've seen other people do that helps to close that gap in there, so that instead of chaining, I'm stacking 2 stitches. So I'm going to go into this last stitch and do my last half double crochet, and again I'm leaving the stitch marker in when I do it so that I make sure and get through both of those stitches on that V. I'm going to pull it up, and you can pull it out of the way if it gets in your way. Pull through all 3, leave this open like this. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn my work. So you're going to turn your work, okay? And what you're going to do here is, you can see once you do this, you have a pretty straight, it stays pretty straight with the rest of your work. So rather than creating those 3 stitches, I am going to go in under this V stitch here on the top. If you can see it, it's a V stitch here. I am going to go under this V stitch. to go under this V-stitch here. So you'll see you have two pieces here. This is that V-stitch. I'm going to go under it. I am going to pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through these two stitches, these two hoops, two loops, okay? And then the next thing I'm going to do is I now have gone through these two loops. I have one here and the second one here. I'm going to go into the second one just through the front part. So if you can see that there, I'm just going through the front part. Might have to wiggle a little to get through there. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull up a loop. So I'll have two. So now you can see I have two loops on here. I'm going to yarn over and pull through two. And what this does is this, instead of having two chains here, I've made it a little bit thicker by doing this. And so therefore it's going to fill that space. So you won't have a space that's generally created here when you do that next double crochet. You usually have an open space here. You won't have that now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stitch marker off, and I am going to put it into this top stitch, making sure when I put it in that I go through those two, 1 and 2, that I go through those two, that V, both of the loops that are at the top of the V, and lock it in place. Okay, so I'm going to do it again so you guys can get a good idea of how it goes. So I get to the end here. I get to the end here of my 4th row. I've completed my half double crochet. You can see I've completed my half double crochet. I'm going to turn my work. I'm not going to close anything. I'm not going to do any chains. I'm just going to turn my work. Okay. And then I'm going to look for that top V. You can see it right here. And I am going to go under it, under that V. I'm going to go under it. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop. So now I will have 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. I've pulled through those 2 loops. I'm going to go into this, not the first loop, but the second loop. I'm going to go into the front of it. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop. So I'll have 2 loops again. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through. And that is going to fill that space up. And then I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to make sure I go through both yarns that make that top V and lock it. Okay? And that's going to count as my first double crochet. This is your first double crochet. And if you pull on a little bit, you can see how it makes this line nice and straight. There's no bulging, there's no gap here. It's really pretty ingenious. Whoever figured this out is a genius, because it just really makes a difference overall in the look of your blankets. And I prefer to use this stitch in anything that I do that allows me to close that gap there. If it's a blanket or anything that I do that has a double crochet where I have to turn around and do that, this is very nice. Okay, so that counts as 1 double crochet. Then I'm going to go into the next stitch and I'm going to do another double crochet. 1 and 2. And don't worry if this looks like it's falling down a little bit. When you come and put that next stitch in, it's going to raise right back up. Okay? So I've done these 2 stitches here. Then I'm going to chain 1, yarn over, and I'm going to count 1, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go into that third chain stitch right under the V. You can see it there. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and I'm going to do a double crochet, yarn over, and then I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go into the stitch right behind this one, and that's going to create our little X, or our little kiss. So I'm going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, chain 1. All right, and so now what you've done is you've created that little O, which is the hug, and this X, which is the kiss. Okay? All right, so I'm going to continue on here. Now that I've chained 1, I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to again count 3. So make sure you don't count this one that already has a loop in it, that already has a stitch in it. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go in to this stitch under the V, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Then you're going to again yarn over, and you're going to go to the back stitch right behind the one you just did. Going to go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then you're going to do your chain stitch. Okay, now I just want to say that one of the most important things to remember at this point, I think, at least it was for me, was that whenever I wanted to stop or walk away from my work, I really needed to get this chain stitch in. I had times where I did these 2 and walked away, and then I didn't do that chain stitch, and I would come back and I'd start the next stitch, which is a double crochet, and then I'd get across my work and I would figure out that that was missing. It didn't look right. I was in the wrong place. I didn't have enough stitches on the top. When you go back to the top to do the half double crochets, you have less stitches. So my advice is to not lay down your work until you do that chain stitch. And then if you walk away, it's no big deal because you've already done that chain stitch and you're not going to forget about it. But because it's so small, it's easy to forget about it and then come back and end up, with it missing. So be careful when you walk away from your work that you do that you end with that chain stitch. Okay. If you're in the middle of a row, and when you're doing a king size topper, you're often in the middle of a row when something happens, or you've got to stop, or you've got to go, turn off the oven or turn the water off in the garden or whatever you've got going on in your day. So make sure that you, if you stop, that you stop with that chain, having done that chain stitch. Okay. And again, you're going to yarn over 1, 2, 3, push it through, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. That's your double. All right. Crochet. Now you're going to go to the one behind it. So every time you do one, you're going to go, the second one is going to go behind it, and the stitch behind it. You're making those little kisses. All right, and then that chain stitch. Sometimes I like to stop and look just to see how it's coming along. You can see this beautiful, nice straight edge here. It looks so pretty. You can see the windows, those hugs and those kisses happening there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and 1, 2, 3. Pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, 2, pull through 2, chain 1. All right, now when you get to this stitch, when you get toward the end, you should have 3 stitches left. So you have your stitch marker here, 1, 2, 3. There's your 3rd stitch. Okay, so what you're going to want to do at this point is you had 2 double crochets on this end, so we need 2 on this end. So the single chain stitch that you did is going to count for this stitch here. So you're going to yarn over, go into the 2nd stitch. You're going to do a double crochet, yarn over, go into the last stitch. I like to leave the marker in and just move it around out of my way to make sure I don't miss any stitches, and then do another double crochet. And if you look at this, you can see how nice the edges are. You have one side here, it's nice and straight, and then you have this side is nice and straight. It matches up beautifully with the half double crochets below. Okay, so when I get to here, I am going to go ahead and chain 2 because I don't need that gap to be filled in since I'm going to be doing a row of half double crochets. So on this end, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. 1 and 2. Okay. Again, I like to do mine nice and tight. So I'm going to turn my work. And I'm going to go all the way across doing those half double crochets. Okay, so you're going to go into that first stitch, half double crochet, go down here and pull out your marker, come up here and put it into under that V. You want to make sure you get under that V. And again, you know, this is that dark blue, so it's going to be hard to see. So you want to make sure that you take the time to put this in here so you don't have to struggle with it when you get back across to that side. All right. Yarn over, go into the 2nd stitch, half double crochet. Okay. And now you're going to come to that chain stitch. That's a single chain stitch. You could go through there. I don't prefer to do that. I like to make my life simple. So I'm going to go through that hole. I'm going to bring up a stitch and do 3. Pull it through all 3. So now I have a 1, 2, and then this 3rd stitch is right through that window, right through that hole. All right, then I'm going to have 2 more stitches that I'm going to do in the X, 2 half double crochets right here on the top of this X. And then I'm going to go through that window and do a half double crochet. Pull up through all 3 loops. Okay. Go through 2 stitches, do the 2 stitches, do the 2 half double crochets in the top here of these stitches, and then go through that window. Okay. And you can see again, this is nice and straight here. Even though we did those 2 stitches, those 2 chain stitches here, because this is that half double crochet, there's no gap here like there is when you do that, when you do the double crochets. So again, I just want to keep going. Now, at this point, we're going to do another row of these X's and O's. So that requires us to start with 2 stitches with 3 stitches for that double crochet, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do that same special stitch that we did before over on this end. So we're going to leave this open. We're going to turn our work. We're going to go into this first stitch under that V. See, there's the V. We're going to go under this V. So I'm going to go under this V. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay? Now you see you have this blue and you have this white, and you're going to go through the second loop. You're only going to go through the front of it though. So you're going to go through the front of it. See, you're going through the front of it. You're going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Okay, and that is the start. Take your marker out and slide your marker into this top V stitch. All right, and that is going to be the ending stitch on that row, on that top row when you come back across, okay? All right, so now you've done one. You're going to do a double crochet in the next one. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then do that single stitch, that chain stitch. Yarn over, and you're going to go over 3. So don't count this one. 1, 2, 3. And 3 should put you in the stitch right before this middle. Okay? 1 and 2. That's a double crochet. All right? Yarn over, go in the stitch behind it. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that is your double crochet. And then again, don't forget to do that chain before you stop. All right. All right. So yarn over, okay. You're going to count over 3. Don't count this one because you already have a stitch in this one. So make sure you look, you have a stitch there. So you're going to count the ones that don't have a stitch. 1, 2, 3. You're going to yarn over, go into that stitch, go under that V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so that's your first. You're going to yarn over and go to the stitch behind it, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and then do that chain stitch. Okay, and you can see you're getting your windows, your X's. These are in line with each other. I like to stop and check every so often to make sure that these are in line with each other so that I know that I've done the right count for those 3 stitches, that I've counted those 3 stitches over and I've gotten into the correct loop. You know, it's important that you stop every so often and take a look just to make sure. If you keep going and keep going, you may end up with, you know, a couple of rows that you'll have to go back and frog. So I just like to, again, stress to take a look at your work to see what you're doing. Okay, so again, I'm going to yarn over. Okay, and I'm not going to count this stitch because I can see there is a stitch in here already. So I'm going to count this one. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to yarn over and go into that V, right under that V, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that is my first double crochet. And then I'm going to go to the stitch behind it, So if you pull this pole up right here, there's a stitch right behind there. You're going to go into that stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then do your single chain stitch. Your single chain stitch. Okay, and you can see as you go along that this is what it looks like. And again, this one is right in line with this one, so they're looking good. Okay, going to keep on going. 1, 2, 3. 2, 2, go to the one behind it, double crochet, chain, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, double crochet, go to the one behind it, double crochet. And I'm just doing this all the way till I get to the end. And don't be afraid if you feel like your yarn is getting kind of wonky or loose. You can pull on it, tighten it up, make it a little bit. Sometimes as you're going through, chenille yarn may not slip as easy. It seems like it would slip really easy, but sometimes when you've got a lot of it and you're working it in this double crochet, it may not. So just make sure that you don't have any wonky loops hanging out, okay? And so now these all look really good. These are all along the same lines. They look nice. I like the way that it's coming out. Sometimes I'll pull on it a little bit just to see how it looks. These are always going to look bigger than these because you're on the other side, but they will, as you go through and put your half double crochets up here, these will flatten out more like these are, okay? They'll get wider. All right, and again, you're going to come to the end here, and I know I'm good because I've got 1, 2, 3 stitches left here, and that's what I should have when I get to the end here. I should have these 3 stitches left. My chain stitch that I do here, and look at that, see, I didn't remember to do that, but I should do that. Your chain stitch that you do here is going to count for this one, and then you're going to put 2 double crochets in here at the end, 1 in each stitch. So put it through there and do your first one. 1, 2, and sometimes I'll count to myself 1, 2 to make sure I'm doing a double crochet so that I'm doing the correct stitch. And then yarn over and go through this next V stitch at the top. Pull up your 1, 2. All right. And this is what it looks like. You can see these edges are nice and clean. They're nice and straight. And it just, this little stitching thing with this double crochet really just makes this thing look super when you're done with it at the end. So again, make sure that you're getting these chain stitches in between, got your 2 double crochets here. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to repeat this entire process. So you're going to do 4 rows of half double crochets, a row of double crochets in this X and O fashion. The next row are the half double crochets. Then you're going to do another row in this X and O double crochets, and then this next row is going to be the start of these 4 again. So this pattern is a repeat pattern of what you see right here. The nice thing about this blanket is these little hugs and kisses in it allow this blanket to breathe. It gives it some breathing room, so when you're covered up with it, especially if you live in South Texas, it's going to keep you warm, but you're not going to be roasting underneath a blanket. And so down here, this is a really nice option for having something beautiful and soft to be able to throw over yourself without, without roasting. Now that we're at the end of the first pattern set here, and if you wanted to change colors, this could be an optional way to change your colors. In the bed topper that I did, I went from this colorful yarn to a white yarn, and then following the white yarn, I did a gray yarn. So I would, at this point, before I finish off this last double crochet, I would go ahead and do the first pull through the 2 loops, and then I would yarn over with this new color that I want to do, and then I would pull that through, making sure that I leave a tail on here so that I can fasten this off when I get ready to finish my topper. So at this point, I'm going to be starting that next row of half double crochets. So I will do 2 single crochets here on this end. Then I would turn my work. And at this point, I would begin doing that first row of half double crochets. Now I'm ready to create the tassels for my topper. I'm going to do 4 tassels, and what you'll need to do those are some type of plastic casing. I am just using something off my shelf because this is the easiest thing for me, and also because it makes it easy to slide the yarn off. You'll need, of course, scrap yarn, or what's left over from your project, a tapestry needle with a large eye, and a pair of scissors. The way that I did mine, and you can do yours, however you choose, but I had 2 colors and various colors left over of my yarn. So what I did was I got the gray, one end of the gray and one end of the white, and I put them together, and I held them at the bottom of the 2 pieces at the bottom of my plastic case, and then I just started to wrap around my case. And you can count how many times you wrap around your case. I believe I wrapped around my case 13 times. I had enough yarn to wrap around my case 13 times. And so you'll want to wrap it around. You can count how many times you go around. And as you're going around, when you decide that you've done enough, you'll come to the bottom, and look at that. It actually kind of worked out. I've come to the bottom. I have the gray and the white, and you're going to cut it off here. So you want to end with your open pieces at the bottom in front and at the bottom on back. Okay? Then once you've done that, you're going to take a piece of yarn. You can use any size that you like. I typically will use around, I believe, 6 to 9 inches. And while your yarn is still on the case, you're going to tuck it under. Bring it up to the top. I like to bring mine right up to the top so that it's right underneath. And you're going to make sure that you pull it through. And then you'll want to make a knot here. So you can do what is called a surgeon's knot, where you go around 2 times. You pull it tight, and then you go over it another time, and you pull it tight, and then that gives you your knot in the top. Then once you've done that, you can slide this off, and you'll see it slides off pretty easily, and then you'll end up with your tassels and this knot at the top. And that's what you want to have, are these tassels and this knot at the top. Now, I did not have enough yarn here to do a full tassel like I did for my bed, so I'm going to show you what mine looks like. Here's what mine looks like when I'm done. So with the ones that I had and doing this tie off at the top, this is what mine looks like. Okay. So then the next thing you're going to do, once you have this at the top, the next thing that you want to do is to create that little bobble at the top here. So you're going to take another piece of yarn, and in this case I did my pieces fairly long because I wanted to have, I can't tell you the exact measurement of this. I believe it's about 24 inches. This is about 24 inches. But the way that I did this is I laid my tassel on top. This can get a little bit, if you have too much yarn on the table, sorry about that. It can get a little crazy. I laid it on top. And then what I did was I tried to make sure that both of my ends that I had were even. So I pulled them up even like this so that they're even. And then I held them together and came all the way back until they came up cozy right around the top like this. Okay. And you can decide how long you want your top to be. If you pull it tight, you can see what it's possibly going to look like. You know, if you want it to be bigger or you want it to be smaller, you can make that adjustment at this point. But here, I'm going to move the camera up a little bit more. So you can see how that looks. All right, so I think I like how this looks. I think this is going to match pretty well with what I did before. Here's one that I did before. So these are pretty much going to be along the same lines. So what I do is I then will tie it here, and I'll go under once, and then I'll go under twice. And I'm going to try to pull this pretty evenly together. Now I'm not going to make a knot in it yet. I mean, you could do that if you want to at this point, but I'm not going to make a knot in it yet. I'm going to go around one side and around the other side, bring it to the front. And then I'm going to go around again and take it to the back and go around again with each side and bring it to the front. And you can see as I'm doing this, it's creating a nice little cinch here. Nice little cinch. It looks nice and pretty. I'm going to do another one around the front here. And I just kind of kept going until my yarn was around the same length. I'm going to come around to the front with this side and around to the front with this side. And you can see when I come back around to the front and I tie it again. And by front, I mean the front where I started. I'm going to do that. Tie around, go around it twice and tie it down. And then I'm going to go around it. I'm going to make another. Now I'm going to make my final knot here. Okay. And so this is my final knot. And these are approximately as long. I could have probably gone around one more time, but I think I'm pretty happy with the way this is. So what I do at this point is I get my needle and thread it through, thread my yarn through the eye. And then I will go into this, right down through the middle. You can see it's coming up through the middle there, and I just pull this through. And if it's giving you a tough time, you can just stick your finger in there and help pull it through, okay? Well, that's one. When you do that, that knot may not go all the way down, but when you pull the second one through, it will. You can pull the knot so that it goes back behind here and you don't see it. And then you'll just have these ends that are not exactly the same as the other ones. I'll show you here in a second. Let's see if I can get this in here. All right, and again, I'm going to put it down through the center. I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm just going to pull it down like this. I'm going to pull that one down. And I'm going to pull this one down so that knot disappears back behind everything, okay? Now, after I do that, you do see these are longer. I just clip them off. It's not a big deal, but you can just clip them off. They are going to be in the middle of this, so you're not going to really see them too much, and if they do come out, it's okay. But again, the reason that I like to do these loops when I'm working with this type of yarn is so that I don't get a lot of these little pieces coming off the ends. So if you have a few ends that do that, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you cut all these ends off here, that's what you're going to end up. You're going to end up with lint everywhere. So I think these look just as lovely. I like them. I think they're unique, and I think they're kind of cute. Now that I have made the tassels, it's time to start putting them onto the corners of my topper. So to be able to do that, you will need a hook. I find it's easier if I have a hook to do this. I like to get up inside the corner here, pull one of the pieces of yarn through, all the way through. And then you're just simply going to make a knot. So I'll do one, go around once, go around twice, pull it nice and tight. Then I will go around again, pull it nice and tight. And then what I like to do is sorry about that, get my tapestry needle, and I will thread the yarn through the eye. And if this yarn were thinner, you could put both of them through there, but I've tried to do that with this, and sometimes it gets a little tight and complicated. So I'm going to do it this way. And then you will slip your needle through the top. Right down through the middle. And you're just going to pull in just like this so that it is hidden. Pull off your tapestry needle, and now your tail is hidden in your tassel. Okay, so you'll do the same thing with this one. Oh, wrong side. Make sure you have it on the right side. Okay, you're going to thread it through that eye. And then you're going to put it down through that center, through the center. Just feel for the end of that needle, tapestry needle, and pull it through and pull it out. Okay. And there you are. There it is. There's the tassel. Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the tassels on, and then we will be complete.
I hope you'll give this project a try. If you do, please leave a picture of your finished project below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more of my creations and tutorials, hit the subscribe button and click on the bell so that you will know when I post my videos. Thanks so much for joining me. Blessings.